Guys, Blizzard just committed another crime, but it's not what you think. Alright guys, so we all have a long history with WoW. Scott, you've been playing since launch. Spot, I don't know if you've been playing that long, but I know you've been playing for a long time. Thanks for joining us, by the way. Let's let everybody know who you are and how you know us, I guess, and what you do in WoW.
Yeah, so I have been playing WoW since, the beginning. It was a great game when I was a kid. It got me into MMOs. I actually met Scott playing PvP, and through Scott, yeah, for real. And through that, I
you guys, I'm going home.
Yeah, so basically every night we would play twos. Halfway through the night, Scott would fall asleep at his keyboard. So that was pretty fun.
You could hear his deep breathing, like in the microphone.
Boring, yeah.
I'm familiar with the sound. Yeah.
Even in the middle of an arena.
Yeah. a lot of rating lost for sure.
Not because of that, just because of being garbage.
But no, I pretty much just play PvP. Back in Wrath of the Lich King, I played some PvE. I think it was the best expansion for PvE, and actually probably PvP as well. But in the later expansions, I pretty much just focused on PvP, unless you needed to do PvE in order to get PvP stuff, which is another story.
Which we all love to do.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, gotcha. What's kind of like your WoW cred? Like, what are you, like a good PvPer? I mean, obviously I know, but let everybody know, like, what's your highest rating and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I mean, I wouldn't say I'm a great PvPer in like arenas. My highest rating is 2380. I missed the 2400 mark by just 20 points, and we can all thank Scott for that.
Go ahead, Scott. What about you? I know we've kind of talked about WoW a little bit before, but I don't think we've really done a history of kind of your history with WoW and what you've done in the game.
Yeah, I started playing, I believe, 2005. I was still playing Star Wars Galaxies when WoW first came out. So I eventually made it over there because Galaxies was starting to turn into something that I really didn't like, that most of the community didn't like, but I just decided to pick up WoW. It was the only other thing that seemed very similar in terms of immersion. I didn't know what I was doing for the first couple of years at all. I was a complete noob, just did battlegrounds, maybe some dungeons, but it was also a lot different back then, and it was not nearly as user friendly as it is to newer players today. So I played through Wrath. I took a break for about 2 expansions there. Came back for Warlords, played there, and Legion, and then took a break after Legion and have not since played. Wait, no, I played a little bit of BFA.
I think we played the launch of BFA, right?
Yeah, through 6 months-ish, maybe.
Yeah, I didn't play too much BFA either.
Yeah,
I think we did maybe one arena season, if that.
But anyways, it's been since then, and now we got a big reveal, and it looks like they're changing some things up. So
yeah, so
it definitely got me to kind of say, hey, let's see what it's offering again. Whereas a couple months ago, I'd probably be like, nah, I'm still staying away from it.
Yeah, well, for me, I obviously don't go as far back with WoW as you guys. I believe I started in around, I think 2011 is the very first time I played. So it was in Kata, I believe. I think Kata came out 2010. And so I believe 85 was level cap. So yeah, and this is like a super weird story. I started playing Star Wars The Old Republic, was actually my very first MMO. And I've said that on the channel before. That's what got me into PC gaming, actually, because I was just a Star Wars fan. I was like, this game looks awesome. And then once I started playing, once you're in the MMO world, every 5 minutes you hear the word World of Warcraft or the name of the game, or someone's referencing something in WoW, and I was just like, I have no idea what these people are talking about. Like, as an MMO player, I thought I had, like, just to know my history, go back and like give it a shot or try to play it. And so of course I did. And I think at that point, since I had no nostalgia factor, I started playing. Of course, I made like a hunter, like all noobs, and I just started doing like dungeons and stuff like that. I didn't know what I was doing, just leveling, and I think it was fun, but to me, I started playing MMOs because of Star Wars. So it wasn't quite Star Wars, even though they're very similar games as far as mechanics go. I don't remember how long I initially stuck with the game. It wasn't super long, but I want to say since then, though, I've played a little bit of every expansion just because I'm always curious when stuff comes out. And then, of course, when I met you guys always wanted to play, probably since Legion, I guess. I've played with you guys, like when an expansion first dropped. I know enough about it now. I would wouldn't say I'm a WoW expert by any means, but I do have almost a 10-year history now with WoW, playing on and off. Yeah, like you, Scott, I didn't think I was ever gonna go back to WoW. I think our last experience or couple of experiences were not great. And since then, we've found other MMOs and other games that I feel like respect our time more, at least to me. And so I didn't see myself going back there. Is that kind of how you guys felt? It sounds like, I don't think any of us after the last couple expansions were like super ready to see what the next WoW expansion was going to be.
I think we're all in the same boat with that. I mean, you know, I'm even still with all the good stuff coming out about Dragonflight. I'm still a little bit skeptical because of the last couple of expansions. You know, I've had really high hopes for the last couple of expansions, and they really did not deliver with the PvP aspect anyways. And it's definitely gonna take a lot to convince me to play again, but just looking at the reveal, I you know, it looks pretty good so far. I'm definitely curious as to what they're going to reveal in the future.
Are you in the same boat, Scott? Are you kind of pleasantly surprised by the reveal, or were you more of like on the skeptical side?
WoW is always going to have a special place in my gaming soul. Anytime I see a new expansion for it, it definitely hits me with a wave of nostalgia. I can't help it. It just does. It makes me curious, but then reality sets in about the time and the state of the game. But the things that they're starting to show and give us information on for where we are in our lives right now, it kind of feels like maybe they're starting to lean towards the other trend that MMOs are doing that are making it more noob friendly or whatever you want to call it. But it seems like might be worth taking a peek.
All right, well, what I want us to do, I want us to kind of go through the features and some of the things that they've listed and then talk about those and see if that makes a difference to us, if it sways us, if features were even a reason why we stopped playing in the first place. I have my own thoughts and some things I want to talk about, but I would say I was kind of caught off guard by the reveal. I was pretty impressed, actually. I know they didn't go into super detail about anything, so it's hard to really say the things that, you know, because I watched all the interviews, I did kind of watched all the videos that people did. They first of all admitted their kind of mistakes with the last couple expansions. I was like, okay, this is important to me. You got to know what you did wrong before you can make it better. And so they talked a lot about the borrowed power stuff, right? Like the Azurite armor, the Azurite necklace, artifact weapons, you know, all this stuff we've had the last 3 expansions, and
things that were inherently grindy in and of themselves.
Not only grindy, they were tied to your power, right? Like you had to do it. Like there was no option.
A mandatory grind.
Yeah, it was a full-time job. The last expansion, I mean, that's the reason I quit in the first place, is because it was just a lot of the stuff you had to do every single day was just, you know, it was too much for somebody who just wanted to do PvP. I mean, that's a big reason why I stopped playing in the first place.
You know, when they mentioned all that, basically what they said was, which is true, the original borrowed power is just gear, right? Like that's where your power comes from. Every new patch, there's a new gear set that you have to go after. That's where your power comes from. And I think we've over the years accepted that that's the grind that we're okay with. If we have to grind to get some more gear, like it's, you know, that's just understood. But when you put that power somewhere else, it kind of feels bad. And so what they've talked about is putting the power back in the classes. I'll just start off with this. Have you guys seen the new talent trees at all? It looked like what they're trying to do is put those choices, instead of being like legendary choices or choices in your necklace or something, that they've put all those choices back in the talent trees for you to choose. Did y'all get a chance to look at that?
The talent trees were super nostalgic for me. It just immediately brought back the old trees.
I absolutely love the format that they have for the talent trees right now. You know, it goes back to
Wait, you're saying presently?
No, how
they look. Okay.
How they look, yeah. I didn't like them in Shadowlands much at all. Like all that stuff was just a little bit too much, and you know, added also to keybinds. And I know a lot of people were very overwhelmed with the amount of keybinds that they had to keybind. So I think that this is going to fix a lot of that. I think people are going to get a lot of nostalgia from playing classes because they are going to put those abilities back in the class talent trees. So I'm pretty excited for the talent trees.
Yeah, I liked what I saw. It looked like there was a main talent tree for the class, and then you had a talent tree for the spec. And so you basically had two parallel talent trees that you were able to put stuff into. And in one of the interviews I heard, you know, hey, if you're playing druid or something, a healing druid, and you want to go down the line, you might have to make a choice between like an interrupt and like a defensive cooldown. So I'm hoping, like you're kind of saying, Spot, they make you make some impactful choices that will reduce the amount of buttons you have and be more important what you're choosing.
Sounds close to SWOTOR.
Something I'd like to see too is more variation, more viable variations in the talent tree, because a lot of the time in the past there's been, you know, one or two that are actually viable, and if you don't play those, then you're just not going to make it.
Yeah, you don't really have choices, right? There's like ones that are automatic that you have to choose, basically.
Yeah, I think for the
I just think that's the nature of it, though. It'll never be. I mean, something's always going to be better than another ability. It's just the way it is.
It's extremely tough to balance these kind of games because of how many, you know, you have a priest, you got a druid, you got a warrior. They're all very different from each other, very different abilities. So it is very difficult to balance something like that.
You know, but in the Star Wars Old Republic expansion, they did this. They removed a lot of abilities and put them in the tree. And I actually feel like it was successful because
I did too.
You had to make some hard choices, and it did change the way the class played and felt. So I do see what you're saying, Scott, where there's probably still going to be a min-max, like for dungeons, this is the one you want, or for raids, this is what you want. But even in Star Wars, I felt like you can take a couple different choices and it was still good. Yeah. I think they could do that here. At least I hope they can.
It is. Yeah, maybe I spoke too soon and said that that's the nature of it. But I'm saying that's the nature of it in PvP. Like there's always going to be one that's more. If you're talking about the whole game, then of course that's great and that works for somebody. But if we're going to speak strictly PvP, then it's different.
I don't know. I hope the talent trees can be meaningful choices and you can actually go down a playstyle route. And the other big thing I hope, which I don't know if they explicitly said it, but I really hope you can just change on the fly and there's not any kind of stupid cooldown or having to wait, you know, to change what you want to do, or a huge gold cost or something. The next thing that they showed off was a new race and a new class. God, are you ready to be a Dragon Boi?
I don't have any desire to play a Pokemon in WoW. To me, that's what they look like. I saw their abilities for the, what is it, Invoker?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's no more lame than a giant panda or those little fox people. It's
goblin,
whatever. It doesn't interest me. That's what I'm trying to say. It does not interest me in the slightest. But I know some furries are going to be.
I heard Spot may be interested. Spot, what about you?
Oh,
I don't mind how they look. I think, you know, you customize it to your liking and you toss some cool looking armor on there. I think they're going to look badass.
So it's either a fox or a dragon. Take your pick.
Yeah, I take the dragon every time.
But for you too, Spot, you also play healer a lot of the time, and so it looks like it is going to have a healing spec. That looks interesting.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited to give that a shot. But I'm just curious to see what the style is and how it's going to play in with all the other specs in PvP.
And I did hear them say this. I know I heard it. I'm trying to remember where. The Dracthyr is going to get a similar, I know I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, a similar flying ability to the Dragon Companion. So you know how Demon Hunters can glide. Apparently the Dracthyr will not only be able to glide, but also dive to get momentum baseline. That's going to be pretty crazy.
Wait.
Fact check me in the comments.
They can fly without.
So it's not flying. Technically,
that's what I was hoping for the Demon Hunter. I wish they could have just flown on it.
Yeah, technically. Well, why don't we just get into it since we're the dragon riding. So apparently it's not really flying. Like you will run out of stamina and it's more like gliding basically, but you can dive to get momentum to fly back up. And so I think the class is also going to have a similar mechanic to their movement. Which seems kind of OP actually.
Yeah, but they need something to jump off of, right?
Yeah. You'd have to jump off something to get that dive going for sure. So yeah, they couldn't just do it from flat ground, I would imagine. But
You're talking more of like a racial.
kind of. Yeah, just like how the Demon Hunter gets the glide or whatever. Yeah, so I don't know, Spot, maybe that will be a good choice, especially for battlegrounds. Like if you can, I mean, you know, like on some of those maps, like even a Demon Hunter, you can just glide all the way across the map. So I don't know, maybe it would be a good choice. But back to the dragon riding, what did you guys think of that? Did you guys think that was a cool addition? Does it even make a difference to you?
Wait, that wasn't footage out of Guild Wars?
It basically was. We're just gonna get into it. I just want to get the elephant in the room for dragon riding.
Let's get it. Yeah.
You know what? They totally ripped Guild Wars. It is what it is. But I'm honestly, I'm not really mad about it. It's just progression.
That was the most fun I had in Guild Wars was the mount.
Yeah, it's just progression. It is what it is. Guild Wars does mounts the best. So it just I can see, I mean, I think they were just a little blatant with the animations. I mean, they're exactly the same. I feel like they could have done something a little different, but my first reaction was kind of like, wow, they ripped Guild Wars off. But then my second reaction was, I wish they would go into all the other mounts and change them to have some sort of motion mechanics. Like, that just seems like like where they should go with this, right?
It might be.
I don't know. Spot, do you care about dragon riding since you're just a PvPer?
Not too much. I mean, I haven't really played Guild Wars too much, so I don't really have any experience with Guild Wars dragon riding. With that being said, I'm definitely curious as to how it's going to work in World of Warcraft, and also, you know, in future MMOs, if that's going to be a new thing, if people really enjoy it, that's going to be a new thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It makes, look, we spend so much of our time in the world in an MMO, doing dailies, doing quests, exploring, whatever you want to do, and we use a mount to get everywhere. Why shouldn't it be like a super fun mini game in and of itself? Why can't we just have fun riding those mounts we've worked really hard to collect too?
Well, it's not just fun. Here's why it's amazing in Guild Wars, is because now they create all their zones with the mount movement in mind. So you have things hidden in places that only a certain mount can access. And so it makes the exploration and stuff like that just off the charts, you know, and it's so much cooler. And I know that they mentioned in the dragon riding, so another rip from Guild Wars, not that Guild Wars invented this, but they're going to have a progression track with your dragon. So it's going to be horizontal progression. That's going to be pretty cool. And you're going to unlock more abilities for your dragon. They're going to have glyphs for the dragon they mentioned. So I'm imagine maybe unlocking those would be getting to hard to reach places as you upgrade your dragon over time. Right. So just maybe cool stuff for like exploration.
It's something fun to do that's just outside of the norm. It's another thing to do that's laid back and just hang out, level your dragon. I don't know.
Which I think is why Guild Wars is so appealing to a certain set of people, is there's so many things you can do that's not related to gear grind. You know what I mean? Like fun stuff in the world that's just like, hey, let's go do this. It's cool. We'll go back to our grinds later. But they did say it's going to be available like right away. So you don't have to, I mean, I think since there's a progression path with it, I think that's kind of the grind with it, but you at least get access to your dragon companion right away. And the customization looked kind of crazy. Actually, I don't know if y'all saw that video.
It did. The armor sets and just kind of the different, just the tails. They were talking about the horns and I guess how the wings are set up. It looks cool. I like that stuff. I like something that is fun to work towards. To me, there's a fine line between a grind and then working hard for something that's worth it. And I feel like the last two, I didn't play Shadowlands, so I can't speak to that, but BFA for sure, even Legion and the artifact weapons, it was a grind for little reward, I felt like. So having something that's really unrelated to my PvP rating or grinding or trying to achieve something in PvE, it's just a fun little thing that I can work towards. It gives me something fun to do when I log in.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I can see people doing that, you know, when they're waiting for PvP queues, stuff like that.
Oh, that's a great point. Yeah.
What I want to see, though, is it being something that is something you can do and can have fun with, but you don't have to do it in order to do anything of the game. That's one of the WoW's biggest downfalls, is all of these things that you absolutely have to do in order to be relevant in the game.
No, you're right. That, and kind of getting back to the point of why I don't really play anymore. is because all those things become like a second job. We're all pretty much PvPers, so it feels really bad to have to go do a bunch of things outside of PvP to be relevant in PvP. Having things that are just fun, that, like you said, they do have progression to them, but it's not related to how powerful you are in PvP. Like, instead of just jumping on the mailbox in Dalaran, you can go fly your dragon around. So, you know what I mean? Like, there's going to be dragon races, like 100%. Like, that's going to be a thing, whether it's through them or just people organize it. Like, there's going to be a whole community around this thing. It's just a nice touch. I know it doesn't seem like a huge feature, but I think the potential to grow it and expand it with other mounts like we've seen in Guild Wars is good. And I think players are going to like it. And WoW's got to get back to the basics. They got to get away from borrowed power. They have to inject some horizontal progression. They have to start becoming a casual game now to some extent. You know what I mean? Right. I don't know. Am I way off base by saying that?
No, I don't think so. I think them it's inevitable. They're going to become a more casual game. I mean, every MMO is. It's just more accessible to everybody now. Video games are accessible to almost everybody. So I think that's the reason that they're going a little bit more casual.
I was kind of impressed with the new zones. Not impressed, but I was like, after Shadowlands, where everything was so dark, I don't know. I thought the zones were finally good. There was like some sunlight. It was, bright colors
WoW
again.
Does well is their scenery and environments. Man, is it beautiful.
Yeah, it's just eye candy, man. It's very, they're very vibrant, very just beautiful zones for the most part.
And that kind of, that real pretty, serene waterfalls with the Dragon Isles looks like, right? That is what it looks like. At least one of the areas did.
Yeah, it was cool. I thought it was cool.
Right now I'm picturing remember the Elf Land in Legion where the Nightborn were?
Yes.
I forget what it's called.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was gorgeous. It has that kind of real atmospheric fantasy vibe to it, and WoW does that best. So the last two were kind of dark and depressing, like Spot was saying. To see that vibrance come back is awesome.
Dude, every time I had to go into the maw, I was just like, oh, I'm so depressed. Do I have to do this again? I can't mount up in here. But yeah, we'll see. The zones look cool. Like I said, I hope they're tailored to the dragon riding at least. I'm assuming they will be.
It's about dragons. There's going to be a lot of flight-oriented stuff in this.
Yeah. Not speaking of, this is like the worst segue in the world. Is anyone a crafter? I don't think I'm not into it. I don't know. Do you guys get into crafting?
Either. Okay. I really do it. My obviously my brother's very into like crafting and stuff. I took a look at the crafting and it looks like it's also going in a good direction.
Yeah, I'll tell you what it impressed me about crafting. Obviously they mentioned stuff about rarities, like being able to get procs to get rare stuff to then put into other recipes to make things, so maybe like critting to get a higher eye level on an armor or weapon. None of that stuff really, I really care about. What I thought was cool was the work orders. I don't know if y'all saw that. So basically they're having a system where if you have the materials but you're not a high enough crafter to craft something, a piece of armor or weapon that you really want, you can put in a work order with your materials and a tip, and a master crafter can come to the board or wherever it's going to be listed and decide, hey, I'll do it for this amount of tip, and they can craft it for you and it's delivered straight to you. So it's not like a sketchy deal where you're like trading your materials or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought that system sounds really cool.
We've gotten by for 18 years on that, so.
I don't know. I thought that was cool. I could see myself because I do always gather while I'm leveling and stuff. Spot kind of got me into that in one of them, because I know, Spot, you're always, gathering stuff.
I'm always killing stuff, just trying to skin in.
I like crafting when it's actually useful, and the crafting in WoW has been kind of back and forth throughout the years. At times it's been useless, at other times it's been really beneficial and cool because you can make special things. Like for instance, I maxed out engineering to get that golem mount and the little airplane mount. I worked really hard for those, so for that kind of stuff it's cool. But when I think crafting and the amount that it can actually achieve in game, I think of something like Star Wars Galaxies, where it was a player run economy economy where crafters had to gather all their own special materials, and they could have like tiers. There was certain crafters that made the best stuff. But if crafting was in WoW where it actually had some type of hierarchy and tiers and rewarded people for spending time gathering or fishing, and they could almost become this like little marketer, this wandering marketer, that'd be something kind of neat. I could get into crafting if it was like that.
I mean, I think the work order system kind of makes it like that. I know you won't have your own like shop necessarily, but I think you could become like a well-known crafter if you can make certain things again in this expansion.
Possible.
I don't know.
Yeah.
The other thing that was really cool about crafting is they mentioned every crafting profession is going to get their own, and they didn't mention the acquisition method, but their own set of gear for crafting, and that will have crafting buffs and stats on it. And the thing that they said that was really cool to me is, so if you're a miner and you go out and you're hitting a mining node, you see yourself with your gear, your mining gear on. Like it automatically like, or if you're crafting something, you see yourself wearing that gear. It's really strange. But they also said it doesn't take up inventory space. So it's almost like you have it equipped all the time, like secondary.
I think the trend here is like the dragon flying, like dragon riding, like the crafting here. If something is attractive and it feels like investing your time is worthwhile, even something as mundane as like a crafting profession can feel worthwhile. It can feel like you've achieved something, and it seems like maybe that's the direction they're heading in.
I'm just trying to wait for them to make fishing fun. I'm just saying out. I don't know if you guys have done any kind of fishing in WoW, but it is the most boring thing in the entire game.
Oh, but I just started fishing in Guild Wars and it's amazing. It's so good.
Maybe we can fish off our dragons.
Dude, that'd be sick. Anyway, forget all this PvE talk. Let's talk about PvP. That's what we're really here for, right?
Back to the good stuff.
Facts. Okay, so if you've been following your boy Savix for any amount of time, he wants solo queue. He's a solo queue king. They announced it. It's coming. Solo queue. Are you guys excited for this? Right now, they've said it's only for arena, but does that sound good to you guys? Like not having to go through LFG to find your partners and stuff like that?
It's definitely a good idea. I mean, the only problem that I see with it is, going in is solo queue and getting bad partners consistently, like partners that are on your skill level. But I mean, really, that's the only thing that I can see going wrong.
Yeah.
But I mean, that already happens, right? So is it like that different than going in LFG and getting a partner and then you realize 2 matches in it's almost 40 rating?
It's almost as efficient like a cold caller. The more you do it, the higher your chances of like getting a roll in some degree, instead of being like, hey, I've been this rating.
Right.
What are you playing? Let's group up. Oh, you got voice. Like
at least with LFG, you can kind of vet whoever you're gonna play with. They have achievements.
It's not time efficient.
No, it's not at all. I think it's gonna be good all around. I mean, when you guys aren't on or whatever, I would love to go in and just do a couple solo queues. It doesn't take a lot of time.
And it's separate rating, right? It's not gonna hurt your rating. And the
way I look at it is this: if you're good, you have a higher chance to really trounce somebody below you. You don't need all 3 players to get there. If you're good enough, you can pretty much global somebody off the bat and then kind of finish it off strong. But as you get higher too, so will the talent, and you're going to have a better chance of just at least being grouped with people who are around your same level the higher you go. Because if you've gotten to that, you know how to play the game. So you're going to be with other players who know how to play the game. And you might be able to quickly meet a group just by chance. It can happen organically. And
it's like a better LFG system. You can meet your partners in solo queue. Yeah, that's interesting.
If you want to go higher, you're going to inevitably get to people who are your same skill level. And then you'll be the one bringing them down while they continue to climb. Well, but I think overall more pros are going to come out of this than cons.
Right. The only thing I can think of when you say that is Overwatch, because I obviously play a lot of Overwatch, and when you get to the higher rating, you would think that people start playing with more kind of sense of the game, but people will surprise you.
It will. But again, too, this is put in game for people who want to just be able to get in, log in, and have a solo rating, so they can do that, and they know the risk, but it's time efficient. They have their own personal rating that they're trying to get up, and it's something that they don't have to rely on everybody just to get it in play. They
Well,
can queue up, play, and go for it.
Well, let's tackle the bad partners thing first, right? Because I mean, you look at like League of Legends, millions of players playing. Somehow, the best players always end up in the top ranks, and I think WoW has enough players and enough people will play that you will eventually rise above. I know your Overwatch example, Spot, but I don't really know numbers for Overwatch. I know when I played Star Wars the Old Republic. Yeah, but Star Wars Old Republic, the player base is so small in solo ranked PvP that you do have bad matchups. Like an 800 MMR with like a 1400 MMR. That's what I'm saying. I think WoW's is big enough where it will be healthy enough for you to, I think, get to the right place where you should be on the solo queue ladder. Basically.
Yeah, and I was gonna say too, in Overwatch, it works fine, Spot. I mean, look at the difference between you and me. Like, you've gotten to where you've gotten because that's how good you are. I'm where I am because that's how good I am, which is far worse than you. But you were able to get there, and now you've kind of started plateaued because now you need to go to the next level. And the second you did, you'd start climbing again. So it's kind of like you're where you need to be. I'm where I'm at. And you can get better, but you're always going to be right where you need to be because that is what your play style is reflecting.
Right. I think I think it'll be a little bit different because you're going to be relying on one or two other people opposed to five other people. So I think in WoW you're going to make a little bit more of a difference in the solo queue anyway. So it will be a little bit different.
Yeah,
dude, healers are going to carry hard, I think, in solo queue.
Yeah.
And also but too, let's just say, if we're gonna say like getting with bad players is gonna screw you over, if we put somebody like Peekaboo playing in a 2K bracket, he's gonna kill somebody very quickly and just maybe even 1v3 in some circumstances.
Kill the entire team.
Yeah, so it's like he's gonna get to where he needs to be without
the potential for
any
carrying is gonna be greater. Yes, some people are gonna be able to carry way harder in solo queue for sure.
Yeah.
The other thing that I think is really exciting to me about solo queue is even I, who hasn't played WoW to the extent you guys have, even I am tired of like seeing RMP every freaking match. You know what I mean? And so solo queue is gonna have some wild comps. So I know you're saying you're gonna be let down by your teammates, but think of what's on the other side. You might, I think that's cool because you're gonna have to have some strats that you've never had before, like some comps that are just wild, and you're like, how do we deal with this? You know what I mean? Kind of a thing. I think that's exciting.
You cultivate a bond with somebody. What if you just get group with somebody and it's some weird comp and you guys come up with something and then you just start driving and it's awesome.
And that's kind of what happened with me and you, Scott. I mean, I met you in LFG, I believe. Yeah. And before like I started talking to you, I never got on voice with anybody really. And now you're one of my best friends that I have. So I do see it, you being able to bond and form relationships through that as well.
Yeah. I don't know. I just think the different comps and stuff.
I was so good though. You were like, this guy is one of the greatest players I've ever seen, and I gotta be his best friend.
Back when we first met, you played Unholy DK and I played Holy Paladin. It was some of the best PvP fun that I've had throughout the entire game. And you were actually really good. I'm not sure what happened, but back then you were
had kids.
Yeah,
I had kids.
Name of the podcast is BadCuzDad for a reason.
I'm not bad yet. Soon enough.
Well,
soon enough
you don't have kids yet, so. All right, so the next thing that I saw in the interview with Bajir is they talked about gearing, the new system they're going to have, which isn't really a new system at all. It seemed like an old system, was the Warlords of Draenor system. I don't know if you guys remember, you could grind the honor, buy an honor set of gear, and then I think you would have to trade in your set with more conquest to get your conquest gear. And so I think there were just 2 levels of gear, if I remember right. I don't remember if there was any gear that dropped from raiding, like your raiding in arena if they had any of that or not in that expansion, but it sounds like that's their plan, just to have two different sets.
You know, I kind of hope that there is no RNG just from playing a match. You know, you play a match and then you just randomly get airdropped an epic piece of gear that's way better
Right.
than the one you have. I don't really like it that much. I think it kind of defeats the purpose of having to grind for your gear. You kind of just play and hope that you get some of that RNG. I'm just not a big fan of the system.
I'm on board with you. I don't like RNG and PvP gearing, or even gearing in general. I mean, I want a clear path to best in slot. I want to have my goal, and I want to feel like, hey, I accomplished my goal. And yes, I get it. WoW is notorious for making you stay in the game and do more things. And that's why they changed to that old Titan forging, because you're like always think, well, maybe my gear will Titan forge to be a little bit better. But if I get my main guy geared up and I get bored, I'll just gear an alt, right? Like I'll still play and have fun other ways. I don't always need to be improving my PvP gear. I just want to get in there and play. I don't know. I like this system. I don't know, Scott, did you like that system from WOD?
Yeah, I don't mind grinding for gear in PvP. For me, I like having that. We've talked about the carrot on the stick to kind of chase. But if I'm remembering it correctly, yeah, I didn't mind that gearing system.
Except for Asheran, did you love Asheran?
Asheran was.
It was. I don't know. It was all right. Anyway, I'm hoping the gear is very easy to get. I'm hoping the grind is not super long. I just did the Star Wars Old Republic expansion, and it took me about 3 weeks to get my PvP gear to max, and I felt pretty good about that. That seemed like
not bad.
a decent amount of time, and now I'm full gear, and it feels good. He did mention that you will have a different eye level in PvE than PvP, so I think you're not going to want to vice versa take one set of gear into the other area. I think you'll be competitive, but you're not going to have the best. Like if you get the top level PvP gear, you're not going to go into mythic raiding and just destroy. Right. I think your PvE eye level will be way lower.
Right. I think that's how it should be. Like, I think one of the worst things they got rid of, and that I would love to see them bring back, are PvP specific stats, specifically resilience. It used to be you were stacked with resilience, you wouldn't take as much damage, but, you could swap a couple pieces of your gear if you wanted to do PvE, and you'd do a little bit more damage, but you'd be a little bit more squishy. You kind of have those things that you change about your style of play, and I liked how people were different. They weren't just wearing best in slot PvE gear.
Right.
They kind of built their gear how they wanted to play.
Yeah. In the Bajira interview with Helinka, he did mention that he was okay with like a raid trinket sneaking into PvP or something like that, every now and then. Or, he said you could take your best in slot PvP gear and you could probably do like Mythic 0 and start building it. What he said that was really cool, I thought, is that if you just PvP with your gear, you can maybe use your honor points to upgrade your PvE eye level on that gear in the Bajira interview. I don't know if that's sinking in, but that to me is awesome, because it means if I do want to go into another game mode, I can just PvP to get my gear up, and then when I'm ready, I can go, hey, let's go do some Mythic Plus.
That's pretty cool.
I think that's cool. I've never heard of that before, but if they stick with that, I mean, I think he mentioned that you can still bring like PvE gear into PvP, but I know I'm pretty sure in Shadowlands, you correct me if I'm wrong, Spot, is where they introduced the set bonus on the trinkets, where it gave you like a ton of main stat and a ton of endurance in PvP if you were wearing those trinkets. And so I think they're trying to kind of do that. It's not quite resilience like you're saying, but it's a little way to keep full PvEers from coming in. And
that was a big change that was, I think, super helpful. I think that happened right before I stopped playing Shadowlands, so I didn't get to see it a whole lot. But I think that was one of the bigger things that they changed, and I hope that they continue with that. I'd really like to see set bonuses coming back for P gear. I would really like to see, like I said, if you had a PvP stat, say, your trinkets have the most resilience to try to stop PvE player or PvE trinkets making it into the arena, because PvP trinkets are so powerful. I would like to see that, because then you have to have quite a big trade-off. You'd have to have quite a good piece of PvE gear in order to make that trade-off.
Well, I know in Shadowlands they ended up having to nerf some PvE trinkets, right? That were just too insane to come in. And absolutely. But that's always the problem in WoW, right? Is balancing, of course, like trying to keep classes balanced, trying to keep gear balanced. And I'm a little more hopeful, and I'll tell you why. Because I feel like in the past 3 expansions, all their balance efforts went to balancing this stupid borrowed power stuff, like balancing artifact weapons and Azerite, fixing all the problems they created with those other systems. I feel like they didn't have time to actually put towards just the core game. And I feel like if everything is back, if all the power's back to your class, then they should be able to balance the classes, right? And I don't know, is my logic flawed on that? Or
I mean, inherently, you take away all the borrowed powers, and you have less to balance. I mean, you're just gonna be able to spend more time trying to balance these classes, and it looks like they're trying to do that with the talent trees specifically, and I think it's gonna work out really well.
Here is probably the biggest bummer, right, from PvP so far. It didn't sound like we're getting any new battlegrounds, and I think we're all big battleground players. I don't know, that was really disappointing for me. I was hoping surely they have a new theme for the expansion, like we would get a new battleground around the new theme or the new world, one of the zones or something like that. But
man, even if they reskinned the same battlegrounds they have now, like Arathi, if they just made it Dragon Isles, whatever the war zones are, even capture the flag, just change the environment.
Yeah, that's true. You could just have another capture the flag map. I mean, that wouldn't be hard to do. You don't have to necessarily have a new game mode or like a new objective that we've never had. I mean, that I would welcome that too. I'm just saying.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I'm kind of getting sick of the same kind of game modes. I wish they would do something. I'm honestly not sure. I haven't really given a lot of thought to what type of game mode I would want, but I feel like they just keep doing the same thing over and over with different maps.
Just to clarify again, though, solo queue is only arena right now,
which is another bummer.
I'd like to see it. Yeah, I'd like to see it in Battlegrounds.
I think this has been a debate for the last couple of years, right? I've heard pros talk about this. I've heard Sea-Doo talk about it. Savix has talked about it, about how arena is just incredibly hard to follow. Like, unless you're a high-level arena player, then you don't really understand what's going on. But when someone steals a flag, like, everyone knows what's just happened.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't have to get caught in the minutia of, oh, he kicked this and he did this. You're just like, he stopped the flag carrier, right? That's all you need to know. And just as from a spectator, point of view for esports, I think it would be cool to have RGBs be more prominent. But like you're saying, if there was a solo queue for RBGs, dude, I think that's where it makes the most sense, because comps are way more varied.
Even 1v1s would be fun. Yeah, hell no, they're not balanced, but they're still entertaining, and they would be fun. And hell, to have a rating for just bragging rights alone, it'd be fun. People already sit outside and duel out cities. Why not make a game mode out of it?
One of the big things with the solo queue and RBG, I think it'd work better because it's the time that you have to spend trying to look for a group, and if you don't have the achievements, if you're not a super good battleground player, then you're just not.
You can't even get in. Yeah.
And if you do get invited, then it's probably not going to be fun, because you're going to have
screamed at the whole time.
Yeah, you're gonna have a couple people being like, "Oh, you're not doing what you're supposed to do." Like, so I think that's another reason. I think.
And again, your skill level goes up with the players. So if you're not good, you're going to be playing with other people who are also not good.
Right.
But this is what's good about RGBs is I don't feel like this, if there were solo queue, the skill level doesn't have to be as high as it does in arena. When you're one of 3 players, there's a lot more weight on you to do what you need to do. When you're one of 8 or one of 6, you don't have to carry as hard. And it is easier, I think, for people to get in and learn roles. 100%. Yes, you don't have to have the most prominent role on the team. You know what I mean? If you're not the best player.
Just somebody that sits at a flag and calls out.
Yeah, 100%. And so I think it's a big miss. Halinka did say in the Bajir interview that they're growing the PvP team right now, and Bajir brought up this point and said that, hey, people I think want solo queue and RBGs. You know what I mean? I think people want that, and he said, you know, that's something they'll look at, but it's not confirmed. I don't know. I think it's a big miss for us, for the casual PvPer now. It would be cool to have a ranking in Battlegrounds.
It's a way for people like us and others too. Maybe it's not a time thing. Maybe they just don't want to play games that much, which is fine. But it allows you to still take part in the competitive aspect and challenge yourself and still rise through rankings and be part of that, while at the same time not having to dedicate an overwhelming amount of time to finding consistent teammates or team compositions or practicing just to get into that content, that you can just dive right in and your skill level will dictate where you go, and it's really all you.
Right. A concern I have for RBGs is with solo queue is, do you have it like Overwatch where, you know, if somebody leaves the game, then you're kind of just screwed. You're kind of just sitting there. And you know, how do they combat that? How do they make it so that doesn't happen?
There's just got to be lever penalties, right? I mean, I think that's all you can do.
Yeah.
I think what you do too is you don't lose rating if you lose. I think the other team can still gain rating if they win, and you can get rating if you win, even if you're down a man. But I don't think you should lose rating. I mean, I guess people could cheese the system that way, maybe just leave every time, but then that's already that much harder to win.
Or win trade, rather.
People do that in every game. Yeah, I mean, they just have GMs have to be on top of that. I don't know. I just think of it as a spectator thing, like BlizzCon. If there was like a RBGs were the main thing. Not that I don't like Arena, and it's fun to watch because you always see some big plays happen and that are really cool.
I equate it to watching chess. Like, if you don't know how to play chess, it's going to be even more boring than it already looks. But for something simple, like let's just say a sport that we all know, like basketball or baseball, it's easy to be a spectator and follow the thing as a whole instead of trying to pay attention to what one individual player is meticulously doing. I'm familiar with Arena, and even high-end Arena play gets me lost. Like, I'll miss things all the time, and it's hard for me to watch because I really don't know what is fully going on. So something that is like you said, more easier to spectate is really more fun to watch than something that takes a ton of skill to play, like an Arena.
Right. Yeah. The thing with arenas is, I mean, the higher ratings, it takes a lot of setup.
So much.
It takes so much communication, and there's a lot that goes into it.
And if you're just watching it, you really don't have any idea what's going on if you're not really all that familiar with the game. So I would imagine new players look at Arena and are just like, they see a billion add-ons in this person's UI and are immediately overwhelmed.
Right. You know, with Battlegrounds, you could, you know, people know when you pick up a flag, you know, it's capture the flag.
Exactly, like Tom said. Yeah, or go take that base. It's pretty straightforward.
Right. Yeah. Speaking of UI changes, looks like they're simplifying the UI, which I'm all for. Yeah. It looked cool. Move anything basically by default.
It's a pretty easy fix, and I hope it leads to other quality of life changes.
Well, I'll craft the perfect UI, and then you guys can copy mine for the new expansion.
And then we'll
give you my info.
My UI will live on. All right, Scott. So with all that being said, you gonna go again? You gonna give it a shot if we all do it? I thought we never would, but what do you think? Is it enough? Get Scott back, paying $15 a month.
On the fence, honestly. Can't tell you one way or the other. Feeling in the back of my head like, okay, you got to log on and do this and get that done so you can get this. And then it was cool when I was younger, but I just don't want to deal with that anymore. So if it is more noob friendly, casual
if they make it more casual friendly, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I would absolutely consider it.
All right, Spot, what about you? Have you seen enough to be at least interested to jump back in?
Yeah, I think it's going to depend a lot on, like Scott said, it's going to depend a lot on whether it's PvP friendly. And what I mean by that is if I can just log in and, you know, if I have to do a daily, whatever, that's fine. But I just want to log in and do some PvP and be able to buy my PvP gear, all the gear I need, and then log off when I have something to do. And I think not having to do those dailies constantly and having to grind for like PvE gear, and I think that's going to cut down on a lot of that time. But with that being said, I'm still very much on the fence. Like I said before, I had high hopes for the last 2 expansions, and they did not deliver. I'm just waiting to see what happens with this.
Well, this is strange. The guy who's not a traditional WoW player is maybe ready to play more than you guys. I do agree. While the reveal and what they said in interviews was good, it was very shallow. They didn't necessarily show a ton of the features in depth. They haven't showed, they've only done one PvP interview. So there's still a lot we don't know. I'll give you guys that. But I think we've been talking about this, Scott, on the channel for a while. The MMO genre has to start evolving. WoW has bled players those last year and a half or 2 years. They have to change. They have to go more casual friendly. I just don't see a way around it.
Well, what you're seeing now, the kind of phenomenon is all these games that came after WoW tried to emulate it. They didn't do a good job. So they started trying to be sort of innovative, maybe not taking huge risks, but doing enough different things to where they kind of developed their own identity that now WoW is kind of borrowing back from the stuff that it created. Essentially, and now it's kind of taking those elements and saying that if we are to continue to go on, if our goal is to remain the king of MMOs, then we now have to adapt and change, and hopefully this sparks them to start being more innovative. And then the higher they go, the higher their quality goes up, then competition starts, and you got more game developers trying to compete with that again. It only makes the world of gaming richer, I think, and not in a monetary sense, in the sense of the product that it's putting out.
Well, I think WoW can only go 2 ways. This is either the last meaningful expansion they ever have, because it's just more of the same, or they're actually going to do something different. I think their back is kind of against the wall, and so that's the only thing that gives me any sort of hope for WoW. All the players leaving for Final Fantasy and Guild Wars and Star Wars and all the other MMOs over the last year and a half, Lost Ark. While it sucked for WoW, I think it's the best thing that could have happened to them, like a little bit of a wake up call. And
exactly.
Spot.
I'm with you. I think that they absolutely need to make this expansion work in order for them to stay relevant. A lot of people have their doubts with Blizzard, and I really think that they need to come out with a really great expansion.
And I'm with you, Spot. I want to just PvP, man. I just want to log in on my Demon Hunter and just PvP. That's all I want to do. And if I can upgrade my PvE gear and it gets high enough, I'm like, hey, these new dungeons look kind of cool, I'll go do that if I want to, but I don't have to. And so if the PvP is cool, I don't mind subbing. And if you guys want to play or whatever, I'm down. And this is going to be like a weird meta thing, but even like us now doing a gaming channel, I almost feel, I don't want to say I feel obligated to play, but I am curious to be able to be informed about what WoW has to offer, moving forward, so I can be informed and speak on it in a way. Not that I'll sub to them forever, and new expansions are always fun. It is a lot of fun usually, at the beginning.
Oh yeah.
So will we stick with it? I don't know.
Discovering all the new zones and everything, and that's always a good time. And I personally don't follow the quest lines. I don't follow storylines with anything, but I know you guys do, and I know a lot of people do. So I mean, if that is fun, if the zones and the quest line is fun, then there's going to be people that are going to show up no matter what just to play that. So I think if I do play, I would probably plan on playing for a very short amount of time and keeping my expectations low. But I do have the hopes that they're going to exceed my expectations, and it sounds like they're on the right track to doing that.
Yeah, I think we're noticing a paradigm shift in gaming in general. Our videos, Tom, have been indicative of that. I think kind of the trend that we've been going, that there's new like better games just technically all around coming up, but they're also doing a lot of new things. And I feel like this evolution is happening kind of right before our eyes, and we're about to see a big jump, and especially in the realm of MMOs. Once this dominator that WoW has been starts doing something different, better believe other games are going to follow suit.
And me and Spot, I think we were talking about this off camera about how, you know, MMO players are aging, so, and we're having more kids where we just have less time to play. So the game has to evolve to cater to us, you know, to a degree. I don't know. Overall, I'm optimistic, cautiously optimistic. Okay. Well, Spot, man, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. I always like getting some new perspective, you know, on the channel, especially your WoW background since I haven't played as much. So it was great, man. We appreciate it. Guys, thanks for joining us. If you liked everything, hit the like button, subscribe. You know, we're going to keep coming out with some more WoW content. I think as we get more information about the expansion, we'll obviously let you guys know.
Yeah,
anyway,
we got some other games coming out that we'll be covering too. So I'm excited for what's on the horizon.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.
Everyone.
Later.
Peace.